records. More records. I like to think that this bunch of records or selections I have today to share with you all is a good mixture of something new, something fresh, some new discoveries of the past as well, music of the past that's getting a second chance in modern day. An overall good mixture, I think. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Studio Funk.
Okay, so first up on the list here, we got this release, which is a brand new record that recently came out. As of the time of recording this, I've had this album for the last 2 weeks, I would say, so it's still very fresh. But I have to say, this is an album as well I've been really excited and looking forward to having in the collection, and mainly because the group here, the artists, have been around for some time and releasing some great music, but in the past as well, I've almost had that little bit of stopgap where I've not tracked them as much. So the people I'm talking about here is a group called Mildlife, and they got this brand new album called Chorus. So some of you might be aware of Mildlife. They are a great jazz funk, jazz fusion group and have been releasing music since, I want to say 2016, 2017. I actually own one of their past releases from 2018. They have released a single called Phase 2, which is an excellent record, a nice little 7-inch. And what we got here is almost like a nice evolution of the group overall. I like to think now that they're continuing in that same strength with their almost like modern contemporary sound when it comes to jazz funk, jazz fusion, let's say. So yeah, this album is fantastic. It's really good. Chorus is an incredible album. And I have to say, for the past few months, they did release a first single with a track called Yourself, which was on the album as track 2. And that was the track that almost got me quite excited for the album to come and looking forward to what the group was going to be doing with their releases. If you got a good understanding of jazz fusion, jazz funk, then you're right at home here. There should be no surprises of what to expect. But what you can expect here is a lot of synthesizers, some great light percussion, some nice arrangements, some nice great melodies as well. And just to say, with the album here as well, it's got a nice length to it. It's got 7 tracks, but the tracks have a nice variation of duration as well. We've got some tracks are covering to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and also look at the title track Chorus itself. It goes to a total length of 9 minutes. From the first track, Forever, you got a nice introduction to the album. Yourself is obviously the past single, but it's still great here to hear. Sunrise is great, Musica is amazing, the title track Chorus is great as well. And I could go on, and even when it finishes on the last track of the album, Return of Centaurus as well, which is another 9-minute track, it's a really good wrap up towards the whole album here. But yeah, I'm finding that every time I listen to this album, it's actually getting better with more listens, let's say. It's definitely one of those progressive albums that the more you listen to it, the more you discover something new from it and discover something else that the artist is going to offer. It's one of those things where in the past, naturally, you're trying to track all these artists, and then naturally some artists just move to the bottom of the pile because you lose visibility of what they've been doing. So it's always been quite a nice experience now for me to pick up Mildlife again and just see what they've been doing, and to see, going back to why I originally liked this group and like this band. But yeah, this group is amazing. They're just so good and almost quite underappreciated, I would say. I think those of us who know about this group will highly appreciate them already, but I think they're a group that still remains quite below the surface. So yeah, this is a great album. Definitely something you should look into. Definitely you can pick up if you would like to. But also I would say definitely check it out on the digitals if you're unsure or just want to have a great little listen first. Definitely check it out, but you won't be disappointed. I think as time progresses throughout this year, and especially now with the springtime here in the UK and the weather starting to get warmer. I wouldn't say it's warm yet, but I'm looking forward to playing this when the sun's out. Yeah, really good. So Mildlife, Chorus, great album. Check it out.
Studio Funk.
So I've been coming to the terms that there are plenty of albums of the past and plenty of artists from the past who mostly could be from the 70s or the 80s periods that release great music but almost remain to be mostly undiscovered mainly because the music itself was, let's say, not widely available to the audience. Mainly because the music might have been limited and pressed in like promo copies, or the labels themselves were highly independent labels or the private press labels, and therefore wide distribution was never going to be a thing. So this particular artist right here that I'm going to be talking about and sharing this record goes by the artist of the name of Errol Stubbs, who released this fantastic, great new album, Turning It Out. Now, some of you might be aware of Errol Stubbs. He is a independent artist and he was active in the 80s, and he released an album in 1986 with the same name, Turning It Out. Now, as far as I'm aware, this album was only released on cassette. It was very limited. You know, we're talking probably about something like 100 copies, like really minimum, like not much copies were widely available. Pretty much to this point, not until recently, the album was pretty much unknown to most people. Like, I never heard the album. I think looking at it, the only track that we did know, that most of us would know if you were aware of Errol Stubbs, you would know about Spaced Out on Your Love, which is also a single. So this actually goes back to the fact that Errol Stubbs originally released his album on his own independent label called E&R Records. So back in 1986, he released the track Spaced Out on Your Love as a 7-inch single, which I have to say now is a very elusive single, a very hard to get record, a very hard to get 45. Something I still aim to get one day, and I will try to achieve that. But I have to say, it's been a great welcome delight to now see that this album right here is now made a full release in modern day. So this album, I think, came out towards the end of last year, and it was something that came out of nowhere mainly because I wasn't quite aware, but at the same time I wasn't too surprised, because at some point last year, Nomura Group actually released the album on the digital platforms, so it's available to stream. And around that time, I was streaming the album as well, and I was thinking, are they going to put this out on record? And to my delight, when they released this record, it's not only Nomura Group, but it's also a collaboration between Tidal Wave Sounds as well. So what you can expect here is a great mixture of an album. You got some nice up-tempo tracks, like the album starts off with a track called Sweat, and you've also going through to some nice slow jams here as well, with Spaced Out on Your Love, some great ballads. But I do want to highlight a track on here with Just a Little Love on the B side. Man, this track is crazy good. It's almost like Spaced Out on Your Love Part 2, if you want to say it in that kind of way, because it's just a really good ballad, well written songwriting, and the progression with the guitar is just like chef kiss. So good. Errol Stubbs is just, he's a bad man. He's a bad man. And I say that in that term as well, because knowing as well his background, he's from Alabama, and I'm just thinking about around that time in the 80s in Alabama, you know, and for him to pull out the tracks like this is just so good. It's actually quite shocking that artists like this, that good, never got signed to a major label, or nothing else persisted or grew from that. I would love to know a bit more about Errol Stubbs one day in terms of what happened with his career. Like, is there more music that remains unreleased? Who knows? It also does pack a nice information about the artist here. Yeah, I always appreciate good linear notes. I think it's almost like part of the experience. When I get an album like this, knowing about how elusive the music is or how special the release is, the notes and the write-up and the context and, you know, the journalism here, I would say, is always appreciated, top-notch. It's a really well-produced record, and it's almost going to be highly collectible. Knowing that it's the first time ever released on record, and knowing how rare the original tapes were, and just knowing about, it's almost like Errol Stubbs is now having the second chance to release his music in modern day. It becomes a celebration in itself. So yeah, Errol Stubbs, Turning It Out, great album. Check it out.
スタジオファンク
Keeping it moving right here on Studio Funk, we got another great selection, and this time we're looking at a nice, great 7-inch from Mildlife. and XL Middleton with this fantastic remix of Wagamama Riso. This is the XL Middleton remix and Wagamama Riso with original on the flip. So for some of you out there who are followers here on Studio Funk, on the YouTube channel or over the podcast as well, you will be familiar with Milk Talk. Probably no surprise I'm going to pick this record. But just to say, this record is fantastic. It's a really great remix. And I have to say that XL Middleton, he's currently on a roll and cannot be stopped. I swear. Every remix he's been putting out, and I've been making a list and tracking all the remixes he's done. And maybe that could be a separate video in itself of just capturing almost like the last few years of XL Middleton's output. This is just a really great work once again. Some of you may remember Milk Talk when they released a track called Transistor Lover not too long ago, and XL Middleton did a fantastic remix of that, which almost caught a good wave initially and was spread like wildfire in terms of like the positive reception of that remix. And what we got here is no different. It's XL Middleton doing what he does best. So Wagamama Riso was originally released on 2021, and it was originally released just as a digital single. So this is actually going to be the first time as well this has actually been placed on record, and makes it even that more special in my opinion. So not too long ago as well, Milk Talk did release their debut full-length album. And just to say, Wagamama Riso is actually not on the album and actually was left out, which I quite like actually. It's nice to know that like this has come as a single but it's not on the album. It makes it a little bit more nice from a collector's perspective as well. And just to say, the Milk Talk album is now out on vinyl as well. Some of you might be aware of that. And if you're just hearing us about this now, you're probably a bit too late. You might have missed that ship. That ship might have sailed because the album itself, which was released on vinyl, was only limited to 100 copies. So if you snooze, yeah, you guessed it, you lose. So yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to QY and Hair Kid of Milk Talk, and also a big shout out to XL Middleton for this really great release. And I will say that this will probably end up on like one of the favorite singles of the year. So yeah, please do check it out. I think this is quite limited as well, so I expect that once these sell out, the repress may not happen. So once again, if you're feeling this, don't sleep.
スタジオファンク
Keeping it moving, another great selection, another great record in heavy rotation. And this time, this is going to be coming from an artist, a British artist, who is also a friend here of Studio Funk, I would say, and is also making his debut on Athens of the North. Now, I just realized actually that when talking about this record, I'm going to be presenting...
I'm dead.
So the artist I'm talking about right here is James Alexander Bright. He's released a brand new single called Fall For You and Viper Flames. So yeah, this record is great, man. Really, really nice. And I do want to give a big shout out to James because quite a few months ago, he did send me the digital files to these tracks and almost give me a sneak preview of like what was to come. And I know he was quite excited for this release, and I was excited for him as well. If it goes by anything, this single here is a great taste of what to expect and what's to come. So what we've got here is, it's a soul record. We got a nice Fall For You, and which is almost like slow tempo, down tempo track. And we also got Viper Flames on the flip, which is, let's say, almost like the opposite to the A side, with a bit more faster pace, with a nice drum selection. The A side is really nice. He's almost got like a layering technique with the vocals. It's just a really, really nice track. Now, I have been noticing actually that this record has actually been getting a lot of attention. So those of us here based in the UK will be aware of Six Music, and we'll be aware of people like Giles Peterson, who did share good respect and love towards James Alexander Bright's new single. And also I heard some other people play it as well, and I can see why this is becoming quite popular, because it's a great example of a track where he's got one foot in the past and one foot in modern day. So best to describe it is almost like a great psychedelic soul fusion almost, and yeah, it's quite hard to describe in that sense, but I think when you listen to it you will understand. And something else I would say as well is that I do sense that this is actually getting better with the more listens I play it. It's one of the things, even despite hearing it quite a few months ago with a little bit of teaser from James himself when speaking to me directly about the music, I was excited for it, but then hearing it on record now, it sounds different, it feels good. Yeah, and I'm quite looking forward to like playing this out possibly. And just to say, James Alexander Bright is a very talented musician. So just to say, on this record here, he's done the guitar, he's done the bass, he's done the percussion, he's done everything basically. He's a one-band man. I actually had the pleasure to see James Alexander Bright perform live not too long ago. I want to say probably 2 years ago now. And it was a great experience. It was really nice to see, and was able to have all the pedals set up and such, you know, and like multitasking, looping, layering, and it was an amazing thing. So when I hear this track here, I'm almost like thinking about his performance doing that, and almost that point of when he gets to perform this live as well, he may be doing a similar thing. So a bit of background about James Alexander Bright. Some of you might be aware of a group called Bright and Finlay. They had a debut album released last year with an album called Everything Is Slow. I do want to say that was an album that did get me through some periods within last summer. There's some great tracks on that album, which is really good. And also James Alexander Bright's last full-length release, let's say, was an album called Float, which was released in 2022, which also got some great recognition. I would say that this single here definitely sets up James Alexander Bright going forward really, really well, and we're looking forward to what he releases. No pressure, James, no pressure, but I am really looking forward to see what you do next. This is a fantastic single and deserves to be shared. Excellent.
スタジオファンク
I am a Japanese funk boogie addict. Oh man, this next record right here is something I've been wanting for some time, and it's a nice little objective completed off the want list. You know, as record collectors, we all got side quests. I got multiple side quests. It's like silly. It's almost like difficult to track. I'm always trying to like complete a set of something, or trying to look for this and look for that. But what I want to do here is focus my attention here on this nice little 7-inch record by Mariko Tone. Mariko Tone is a Japanese artist who was active in the 80s, mainly during the mid to late 80s, I would say. So this is a very almost like hard to get rare record, which is obviously our Japanese record, Japanese press of the single, The Heat of the City. Yeah, this is a really great track, really, really nice. And this is actually a single taken off the album called Just My Tone. Or actually, should I say Just My Tone? So just to say, with her name, it looks like you should pronounce it as Mariko Tone, but it's actually Tone. And I'd like to thank a good friend of mine who told me that quite a while back now, and put me onto it, the correct pronunciation of her name. So actually, saying that now, that album must be called Just My Tone. Take that. But yes, The Heat of the City, this is great, man. It's really good. What she does here, she actually does the whole song in English. She actually has quite a good efficiency of doing songs in English and also some songs in Japanese. But what we got here is a quite nice high tempo dance floor business right here, boogie funk, you know, that nice late 80s city pop sound, really good. But also what we got here is a nice collaboration where she has with a band who is a mixture of Japanese and American musicians. I think for some of her past albums actually, it's almost like the same group that she's recording with. I need to double check that and confirm that, but I think so. I think that's the case right here. But overall, with my side quests when it comes to Mariko Tone, is that I'm on a quest to get all of her records and have it all in my collection. And I'm doing not too bad so far. I won't say which ones I have. I'm not gonna show you how insane I am. But yeah, I definitely have been collecting quite a few of her records now, and it's really nice now to have this. I do want to say as well, I want to give a big shout out to my Connect, let's say, in Tokyo, in Japan, who assisted me to obtain this record. Really, really nice. You know who you are. I ain't got to say no names. We don't say no names around here. We don't say no names around here. You know, I'm always thankful for those people, friends and people who put me in a line of things. I got to give a shout out to people out there who are doing God's work, who are allowing people like myself to obtain these records through the ways of a system, which is nice. I just love the artwork here. I just love the sleeve design. I have to say, when it comes to Japanese records, they just have this really good aesthetic when it comes to the sleeve designs, the cover designs. And I've always admired this, and I have some theories around this, and it's something that I might have to eventually finally get my act together and make a video about it. Those of you who are friends of mine, you would know that I've had this passion for a while, and I wanted to do it. I'm not exaggerating, probably like 2-3 years ago now, but I think now the time could be the best time to look into it. So yeah, this is a great record, and I'm really happy to have this. So it's a nice little check mark for me, and I can stop fantasizing about owning this 7-inch and pair it now quite nicely with my album as well. And that's a wrap here on Heavy Rotation for episode 2. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the selections. Is there something new here for you to discover? Is there something here that I should have maybe have included? Do let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please like, and if you're new to the channel as well, please subscribe as well. But I see you all next month with another episode. Keep digging.
スタジオファンク